Hi, Starmer's just given a speech on immigration, so I wanted to come straight on and talk about it. See what you make of this. Feel free to comment if you fancy. So, Keir Starmer says he's finally getting tough on immigration. But did he actually say anything in his 20-minute speech this morning? There were no targets. There's a surprise. No numbers, no action. Just more vague promises and silence where it mattered most, including the 400 illegal migrants who were crossing the channel as he spoke. And, of course, one of those migrants died last night. He didn't mention that at all in his speech. This wasn't leadership. This was panic, blind panic. And it looked a lot like the Reform UK party, minus the spine, minus the character. I would call it Reform-Lite. Good afternoon. Welcome to the John Gaunt Show. What did you make of Sir Keir? As you can see, I'm back in my daughter's kitchen. I'm looking after the dog. He's poorly, so I may get pulled away. So let's make the most of it while I'm here. What did you make of Starmer? I think he's a stinking hypocrite. He tried to blame everything on Labour and took no responsibility whatsoever. Let's go through it step by step. Pip Tomlinson, I'll come to your comments in a moment. If you want to comment, you know the rules. Just write them up. I'm still doing another show later, and that's going to be a humdinger as well, let me assure you. Right, let me just get down to this then. Let's start with what Starmer didn't say. On the day of this massive immigration speech, 400 economic migrants, I presume, there might be one or two asylum seekers amongst them, crossed the channel illegally to land at Dover. Now, unfortunately, one of them died, and that is absolutely tragic. But Starmer, not one bloody word. He had no plan for the small boats, no mention at all in his speech of illegal migration. Just vague talk about a points-based system. Starmer, these lot aren't worrying about the points. They're just getting in a dinghy. And he talked about workforce planning. It was all buzzwords. No targets, no urgency, no substance. We have got a national emergency crisis, and this idiot couldn't even write his own speech. This speech, you'd be forgiven for thinking it was written by a Reform UK intern, somebody on work experience. It had all the right phrases, but no commitment, no spine behind them. Starmer dropped in phrases like the nation of strangers, saying that people aren't mixing enough. He hinted at too much migration. Isn't it a coincidence? This all happened just days after Reform UK hammered, and I mean it, that's the right word to describe it, hammered Labour in the local elections. But here's the thing. I don't reckon anyone's buying it. I put up a couple of tweets. It went crazy. People can smell desperation. Don't you understand that, Sir Keir? When you talk tough only after a political bruising, that's not leadership, it's damage control. I just thought it was shocking, a shocking speech, insincere. You know he doesn't believe a word of what he was coming out with. It was all, I think it was trying to pull some of his Labour supporters back who might have gone to Reform. But I don't think it would satisfy them. And it would turn off a lot of the real lefty Labour supporters because the language he was using, the language was not the language of a Labour leader. He's desperate. He's in a tailspin. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know who to trust. He's rudderless, if I want to mix my metaphors. What do you think? Pip Tomlinson, he says, he's obviously panicking, John, because of pressure from Reform UK. But no one believed he would control immigration before, and no one will now. I agree with you entirely, mate. Magpie 1972. Honestly, I think he's talking bollocks. Is that a technical term? And there's no figure to work with. Also, he came out with this line, the usual line. I did this in my last job. Crap. 100% crap. Well, he does come out with that a lot, doesn't he? He loves that line about I was the director of public prosecutions. But as he's keen on history, I've been doing a bit of research about blame. Let's talk about Labour's role in the migration crisis, because he tried to blame 14 years of the Tories. Now, undoubtedly, they made a complete horlicks of it too. And of course, Boris Johnson let in hundreds of thousands. But let's look at history because it's important. So let's talk about blame. Don't forget to join in if you want. It's the John Gaunt Show with you for about half an hour, and it's an extra one. There'll still be one at 6:30 tonight. Starmer laid all the blame today at the Tories' feet. 14 years of misrule, I think he said. But let's not pretend Labour are innocent here. In 2004, if you can remember that far back, it was Tony Blair who opened the doors to Eastern European migration without any other limits. Do you remember other countries? I mean, it was that idiot Angela Merkel who allowed this to happen, allowed them all to come in through Germany, but then she put a limit on it. France did, Italy did. We didn't. We just let everybody in, which of course led to the cliche of the Polish plumber. Nothing against the Polish plumber. They're very good. But he put no limits. Tony Blair. He had a clear option from the EU to restrict it. He chose not to. And whilst we're talking about history, people are saying how good Mandelson was to get this terrible American deal. The only people who've won in that deal, in my opinion, are some people who work at Jaguar Land Rover and, of course, America. The more you look at it, the more Trump has stitched his up. But everyone's saying, oh, no, Mandelson was a great statesman. But do you remember in 2004, I think it was 2002 they let the plumbers in. In 2004, Mandelson, or one of his advisors, made the point that we wanted to rub the rights, the far right, they would call it now, nose in diversity. They wanted us to change. They hated Britain. And it's my contention, people like Starmer and the North Islington cafe latte mob, right? The let's smash an avocado on our toast mob, the only thing he could bloody smash. They still hate Britain and the British. Starmer can talk about a divided nation if he wants, but Labour built the foundations of that mess. Do you see what I did there? Foundations, because he's been going on and on about foundations, hasn't he, recently? He really gets on my wick. Anybody else going to comment? This is an extra show. It's the John Gaunt Show. You can also, if you fancy, or reward me here on YouTube, you know how to do it. Just press the rewards button and offer me a couple of quid. Come on, you can do it. Or buy me a coffee. That's how we keep these podcasts going. www.buymeacoffee.com. I'm laying the blame for all of this, really. The Conservatives were just as bad during their 14 years. But today, the one word he never said was reform. He didn't mention Farage. He just basically said it was him versus Labour. Well, that's just ludicrous. Him versus the Tories. The Tories are not going to be not a political force now. But certainly by the time the election comes, they won't be. His battleground is reform, but he didn't want to mention them because he was too busy ripping off their policies. What did you make of it? Maybe I've got it wrong. Maybe you were convinced. But who was this speech aimed at? Middle England? The so-called Red Wall, which is collapsed by all accounts? Swing voters? Only swing when you're winning. Or reform defectors? Nobody in reform is going to defect to Labour, are they? It came off today, that speech, like a party, and particularly a leader desperately searching for a message rather than leading with one. Starmer's not fighting the Tories anymore. He's reacting to Reform UK, but he's so arrogant he won't mention them by name. But he copies Reform's talking points. but he hasn't got their conviction. So that just makes him look like an empty designer suit donated by Lord Ali. I just thought it was an absolute waste of time. What was he trying to achieve? If you've got something, a thought on this, please let me know. I just thought the whole thing was an absolute farce. A farce. See, Tony's just come on here now, Tony Venz, and he says the man is a traitor. I'm not so sure I'd go so far as to call him a traitor, but I don't think he's a Brit. I don't think he's on our side anymore. I think the only side Starmer's on is his own. Anyone else got a point to make? Good morning or evening, says APK. Well, it's morning. It's an extra show. I'll still do the show probably tonight at 6:30. But this speech, I sat there because I'm down at my daughter's and I got increasingly angry. At first, I was just laughing at him. It was so transparent what he was doing. But then I got annoyed because he then, in typical Labour fashion, started to rewrite history, blaming the Tories. Now, you can put a lot of blame on the Tories for this. But you've also got to say, where did it start? Well, it started with the EU, and it started with Blair saying, in you come, as many as you want. Italy and other countries put limits how many people come in. I was doing TV shows at the time. I've always told you about this guy from Cornwall. He was a chippy, and he was saying, he was a young lad, and he was saying his work and the amount of money, it was Newsnight I was on, the amount of money he was earning had gone down because of the foreigners, as he called them, the Europeans, coming in and working for less money. It was Kirsty Walker. I was trying to remember who it was, and then I saw her on the BAFTAs last night. She hosted that show, and she slagged him off because he said something that wasn't quite North Islington cafe latte kind of conversation. He said, yeah, they're coming in and undermining us or whatever. And she had a go at him. And so then I had a go at her. I said, hold on, you've asked this bloke to come and tell you his real lived experience. He's come, and now you're putting him down because he's not as educated as you. You snobby. Well, I didn't say the next bit, but you can imagine what I was thinking. But that was what it was like. Do you remember the Blair years? They were so much in the pocket of the BBC. It was incredible. I mean, thank God now we've got something like GB News. It's not perfect, but at least it's trying to offer an alternative to the BBC, the complete and utter bias of the BBC. And Starmer, he did that press conference this morning at 8:30 so he could get on the breakfast shows. It's all media manipulation. But unfortunately for Keir Starmer, it's all too little too late, isn't it? It's all too little too late because he's the most unpopular Prime Minister we've ever had since records began. People have lost faith in you. You could say tomorrow you're going to cut income tax to a penny, and I don't think people would vote for you, Starmer. You've lost it. You've not just lost the dressing room, you've lost the whole club. But he can't see it. He's so arrogant, and especially now because he says, I got this trade deal with America. I haven't had a chance to talk to you since that went through, really. He hasn't got much of a deal. It isn't much of a deal for us. Yes, it saves some car workers' jobs, which, of course, is vital. But the rest of it, what was it? What's he done? We're still going to pay massively more than them. Trump is a genius. He's pulled off the deal again. India, I'm not so sure. I've not really looked into that. But I don't think it's anything to sort of make out that he's now this international statesman. And I see over the weekend, there's some controversy over this. He got his coalition of the useless together, well, which now is obviously only 4 people. Germany, Poland, and Macron of France. And then they got Donald Trump on the blower. And Donald Trump then threatened Putin. So now Putin is going to have a meeting with Zelensky. All good news. But don't tell me this was all down to the brilliance of Keir Starmer. And that's the other thing with Keir Starmer today. He's not promised anything. When he was pressed on, what's the numbers? How much? What's your target? Oh, I don't want to fall into that trap. Other prime ministers have done that, and I'm not going to do that today. So he's given us no target. So how do we judge him when he marks his own homework? Do you follow what I mean? He's conning us again, like he conned us to get elected. Not me, I didn't vote for him, but he conned us to get elected. All those promises he's made. And then today I was watching GB News. There's pensioners now. The fastest rising section of shoplifters is pensioners. Now, when I first heard that this morning, I laughed. I had visions of Granny running down the street with her turkey stuffed up her dress or whatever. But no, when you stop and think about it, what a slight on our nation. He stole £300 off pensioners after promising he wasn't going to cut the winter fuel allowance. And then the other thing I've noticed recently, have you seen all the videos? I keep making this point. He makes a video every time he thinks he's done something brilliant to talk about how brilliant he is. Everything's brilliant, yeah? Like now, there's pictures of the White Cliffs of Dover. I'm stopping illegal immigration. No, you're not. You basically told us this morning that's what you want to do. Not illegal, sorry. Any form of immigration. But then this afternoon, that's why I'll come back later, because he's going to do the vote this afternoon, which I think will give another slant. I don't give away too much now. But he's just a liar, isn't he? I thought he was a fibber, but he's not. He's a liar. He'd lie to your face if it meant he could keep in power. He's got to be removed. Do you agree with me? Look at the way, and thanks, by the way, for the fantastic response to the last broadcast, which was all about the riots and what was his role in that. I can't believe how many people agree with me. If he had just told us that actually Axel was not a recently arrived Muslim illegal entrant, maybe that would have calmed the riots down. He didn't. But then he comes on Billy Big Boots and sends a load of people to prison. Has he even stopped for a minute and thought, that's wrong? I've sent people who were basically decent law-abiding citizens. I'm not talking about the ones who were burning the hotels down, by the way, to prison. Or even the ones who did want to burn the hotels down. You've got to question, did they get a fair trial? Or did they just give in? And what was this thing about all the judges being on telly handing out the sentences? If that wasn't mass kind of mind control, if that wasn't propaganda, I don't know what is. It's pretty disgraceful. And he didn't want to know why people had rioted. He's now got all these official reports coming out, left, right, and centre, saying, well, they were dissatisfied. There's a lot of white working class people who feel they're being left behind. And this will be the same thing when he comes to analyse while he gets absolutely hammered in the next general election. He got slaughtered last week. Absolutely slaughtered. So he could have said today, oh, like he did the other week, I get it. I understand it now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to prioritise over the next few months and the next year or so, migration, both legal and illegal. I am going to stop the boats because I know that's what you want me to do. You're the people. I'm your Prime Minister. Give me a break. Let me get on with it. No, he wheels out Yvette Cooper. I mean, I thought he was a terrible performer today, Starmer. Like I say, he was a Reform-Lite. But Cooper's even worse. She hasn't got a clue. But then she might be being led up this path by him. Don't do what I say, you won't be the Home Secretary anymore. I want to be the Home Secretary. It's a government of complete and utter misfits and idiots. You've got Reeves, thieves, right, who falsifies her CV. In any normal job, she'd be outside the dole office singing, Scooby-Dooby-Doo, Big Miss Shoe. Yeah, she'd be out of a job. You got the ex-Hague, who was the health minister, who got the sack because she had a mobile phone stolen in a previous job, that then she found it again, used it again, and then basically left the firm. And then you've got Jonathan Reynolds. He was involved in the American deal. He's the one with the bald head. He's got more hair on his beard than on his head. Looks like he's got his head on upside down. He's the one who helped with the American deal, along with Lord Mandelson. Going to rub their noses in diversity, that one. Anyway, Reynolds, he's a solicitor. Well, actually, he's not. Whoops, I made a mistake. I was never qualified. So what? You worked in a solicitor's office for a few weeks? Yeah. and you're now the business, trade and industry secretary. Yeah. And you don't think that's resigning matter? Oh, no. Nobody bloody resigns in Starmer world. And that's what we're living in. And then you think, well, what have they all got on Starmer? What are these things that people keep hinting at about Starmer? What is it with him? Who is he? Do we know who our Prime Minister is? I was going to say it's in the gutter, but I think it's beneath the gutter. Don't get me wrong, none of this is promoting the Tories, because the Tories by now should have a massive lead on them. But she can't score in an open goal either. So the future is Nigel Farage. We've reached a stage now in British politics, this is BP, where I don't believe anything the Uni Party, says. I'm looking forward to being able to vote Reform unless they stop me voting again. That's a brilliant point, BP, because that's all they'll do. They'll just cancel the election. Oh, no, you can't have a vote. There'll be some cock and bull reason, and you won't get your vote. That's what happened this time to loads of people. And we just sit here and we just take this. And I'm waiting for the news tonight and how they're going to report it. Although I must admit, I'll give the BBC a bit of credit here. They're already questioning whether what Starmer was saying was the truth. Because it wasn't. It wasn't the truth. It wasn't the Tories who created this problem. It goes back to Tony Blair. It goes back to letting in the Polish plumbers. It goes back to Blair saying everybody should go to university. Why? Look at Charlie Mullins. He owns more than every university professor in the country put together. Almost. Do you understand what I mean? There are trades where you can do really well. Why do you want to be saddled with a £50,000 debt? But he made out everybody, that was it. Blair's ambition, see, I'm old enough to remember this. Blair's ambition was that 50% of the population went to uni. Why? I only wish people had asked that question at the time. Why was that necessary? What's wrong with getting a trade? Why are you looking down your snobby nose at me, you North Islington cafe latte drinking, Birkenstock shoe wearing, open-toed sandal? Oh, let's go skinny dip it into Catalonia. These people make me sick. And today, you see, here's the other thing. This was another moment. He had the whole of the press in his conference room that Boris had designed. It was his big moment. He could have shown real leadership. He could have also shown a bit of humility, which I keep saying. It's only a little bit of humility he's got to show, and people will forgive him, not for much longer, but they would forgive him some of the mistakes. Instead, we got political posturing again. Recycled slogans, but these slogans aren't even his slogans. They're Reform's slogans. A few weeks ago, he'd have been saying, that's far right, you're going to prison for saying that. Let's just go back to Blair a minute. Blair was also the one when I was on BBC London about 15, 20 years ago, I don't know how long ago it was, and it was the Olympics. And I was in Tower Hamlets, I think, when the announcement was made. And the mayor there, he was a typical Blair lefty, right? He was making out, I don't know if you know, John, we've got 200 languages or something spoken in our schools. And there was just a pause. You could see my production team thinking, he's going to go on here. And I did. I said, is that something to brag about? Because I don't think it is. And don't start, well, what about when people go to live in Spain? They should learn the bloody language there as well, English people. But how could it have ever been a good idea to let in thousands of people who can't speak English or read or write it? How can it be a sensible suggestion that we've still got people in our country who, to get their benefits, right, they have to take their 14-year-old child with them to help them fill out the forms? And I'm talking about the grandmas here, and they've been living here for years. That's not good. And then, so today, he talks Starmer, about us living isolated lives. Well, you're the one, and Blair was the same as when it came to sexuality. There's all kinds of families. Well, maybe there is, but the best kind of family is a man and a woman. A man married to a woman, then having children. A woman who's biologically a woman, she's got a womb. She's not having to use a surrogate. It's not two fellas. No, I'm not against it. I'm not against gay marriage even. I'm not. But what I'm trying to say is they try to put everything on the same level. Well, it's all collapsing around their ears. Look what's happened in Scotland. The Scottish Parliament have just closed all the toilets that were gender neutral. So the trans people are now going bonkers. And it's like, well, where am I going to go? Well, I'll tell you where you're going to go for a shit. You're going to go to the men's. Or if you're a lady, you're going to go to the ladies. Yeah, but I'm not. I identify as a woman. No, but you're not. You're a man. You're not biological. We just proved it. J.K. Rowling won. You lost. I'm more or less joking now. But this is the madness that people like Blair and his wife and the human rights organised. And then again today, when Starmer was pressed, well, you can't do most of what you want to say you want to do unless you leave the ECHR. Oh, I'm not doing that. See, because again, Starmer is a moron, right? Starmer's done a deal with Trump, right? It's a rubbish deal. I think we'll have to accept that now. However, next week, what's he doing? Next week, he's going to Europe to get closer ties. There's even talk about us having a European army again. I thought we'd finish that. I thought we'd finished that nonsense ages ago. But he won't leave the ECHR, so we can't turn people around. We can't return them. That won't happen. It's all rubbish. Cooper's going on about, we're sending people back today. These are people who want to go back. They're getting paid thousands for going back. It's just a joke. So we got political posturing, recycled slogans, most of which were Nigel Farage's, and no plan, and certainly no conviction. You cannot solve a crisis, Sir Keir, with sound bites. Are you listening to me? You can't rebuild trust with spin. Do you understand that? Let me know what you think, you lot. Is Starmer done? Is he finished? Is he in a tailspin? Can Reform UK keep the pressure on? Drop me a comment underneath. Hit the like button. That's really important. A lot of you have been doing that. Thanks very much. And subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's completely free. If you want to get more straight talking breakdowns of what's happening in British politics, the best place to come is here, John Gaunt TV. If you're listening on a podcast later, thanks for doing that as well. You can still press the like button. And if you really like what I'm doing, please send me a donation to keep these podcasts going. You can do it on YouTube. I didn't write it down today because I'm not at home. I came down on an emergency mission yesterday. I was like Rolf Harris, but I thought that's a bad example, isn't it? I better not say that. But he's been sick and diarrhea, and he's a big bloody dog, let me tell you. So he's on chicken and rice today. I think he's going to go Caribbean later. Oh, that's chicken. No, it's not. That's rice and peas, isn't it? Why do they say, if you're Caribbean, can you tell me, why do they call it rice and peas when it's rice and beans? I've never understood that. I love it. Jess Pixie on YouTube says, Whitehall do the extra work. We just don't know who these civil servants are. Learn what direct democracy is. We don't have it. Well, thank you, Jez. Do you always speak in sound bites? But thank you for your comments anyway. Where we get now, Craig Yerker says Banana Starmer, slippery customers, the lot of them. Okay, thank you very much indeed. They can send them back and just deal with the fines, says Jess Pixie. I wish we could, actually. And then this is a nice one. I like this kind of thing. I wish my wife would say this. I agree with everything you said. Thank you very much indeed. So anyway, like I say, you can do it on what's this called? YouTube. You can give a donation here. Anything from £1, I think. And then if you want to go to buymeacoffee.com/John Gaunt, you can also donate anything from £5 upwards. Got to get the money in because I've got to keep it going and I want to develop it. And I'm giving you loads of product now because like today, I'm going to still do a show at 6:30, I think. Because I think there's going to be loads more developments. But I just thought, well, I'm sitting here. I may as well do it. Can't take the dog out. Bit embarrassing when you can't actually pick it up, if you know what I mean. So I'm not doing that. So I'm being a good citizen. Lisa Carvel, what's she saying? He didn't mention the illegals crossing the channel. Correct. He didn't mention them not once, Lisa. And 400, and they're still coming. There's 10 boats evidently coming across at the moment. But there's 400 overnight. And tragically, one of the migrants died. No one wants to see people dying in the channel. No one. I want them to stop coming. But I want them to be treated humanely. And then, you know, last week, as you know, I suggested putting them in tents, army tents, and that's still being poo-pooed. And that's been poo-pooed by the BBC. Sorry, dog, not you. By the BBC and the media, the mainstream media. Not one of them's got a spine. It's a good idea. Put them in tents, proper military-style tents, kitchens, medical facilities, bathrooms, all of it, like our boys have. It's good enough for our boys. It's good enough for them. And that will put some people off from coming. It also means we can get them processed quicker, and then we can send them back if they've got no right to be here. I'm telling you what's coming down the line. Next week, he'll rejoin the EU in all but name. Then we'll be in a position where he suggests an amnesty. Oh, yeah, my coalition of the useless have had a meeting. We've had a meeting, and we've decided it'd be a really good idea if we let them all stay. The ones who are here now. But then we're going to be really tough on anybody else coming. No. I don't even want the ones who are here already to stay. I want them to go home because they didn't do it the right way. They broke the law. They broke into our country. Oh, you know, all those burglars have been screwing your house. Don't worry about it, Gaunty. We're going to stop it. Oh, are you going to stop it, Sir Keir? We're going to let this lot off and tell them they've been a very, very naughty boy. And if anybody else does it, they're going to go to prison for 1,000 years. That's really the logic and the way that idiot-faced Starmer thinks about it. Thank you, Lisa. Starmer is going. Going where? Says Roderick Toms. I love it when people make out they know exactly what's happening, and they obviously don't. The only good thing is Starmer is so unlikable. Every time he speaks, Labour drops in the polls. Yeah, he has got the Midas touch in reverse. I've been saying this for ages. Lisa Carvel, this is a good point, Lisa. Thank you for joining us. He has agreed that Indian workers can work here without paying NI. So Jaguar Land Rover can employ Indian workers 20% cheaper than UK ones. And do they still get healthcare, although they haven't paid in? Yeah, of course they do. Of course they do. Lisa, no, of course they do. Everything is geared up to the migrants, and particularly the illegal migrants. None of it's in our favour. Have you not got that yet, Lisa? Huh? You not got that? That you're a mug, you're paying your taxes, you're paying your bits, you getting out. That's the way it works, isn't it? Huh? I'm pretty sure it is. The Starmer will be gone this year. What other idiot are we going to get is the question. Well, all the rumours over the weekend were Angela Rayner. I'm not making this up. Some days I think I've been drinking the fruit juice, the Kool-Aid. I hardly drink alcohol anymore, but I tell you what, it's driving me back to it. And in Coventry City, we were robbed, weren't we? I'm not blaming the other side, by the way. They played brilliantly. They parked the bus and we couldn't break them down. But wasn't it tragic? Let's see what happens tomorrow night. Mark the Vicar. Stop the RNLI acting as a cross-channel Uber service. Well, I know where you're coming from, Mark, but I'm not in favour of that. The bottom line is the RNLI are there to save lives, and they're there to save lives and not pass judgment. So if somebody's dying in the channel, they're going to pick them up, just like a paramedic would. And I think that's right. That shows our humanity. We have got immense humanity, got immense tolerance. Don't fall into the trap of then people like Starmer being able to paint you as if you're an unfeeling brute, because we're not. We're one of the most generous countries in the world. We're a fantastic country. That's why every Tom, Dick, Abdul, Muhammad, Sam, Bert, Fred, Harry want to get in the country, isn't it? Let's face it, because we're brilliant. But we just can't have them all. That's the truth. I don't know. But today, that was more appeasement from Starmer. They'll still keep coming. Do you remember, I was working in Boots. I'll tell you how long ago this was. It's when they had a record department. And in a pinstripe suit that used to be my brother's, it was too small for me. And it always showed you how much work he'd done because the pinstripes were painted on. So he'd obviously sat on his arse most of the time because over my backside there was no stripes. You with me? Anyway, and Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds came out. Remember that song? They said the chances of anything coming from Mars was 1,000,000 to 1, they said. And still they come. Well, that's about what I was thinking about today with Starmer's speech. No matter what you're saying, Starmer, they're still going to come. I'm going to still keep paying for them. You're going to still keep living in absolute luxury. You're going to still keep getting suits made for you, bought for you by, suits you, sir, Lord Ali, yeah? Your son's going to still be in his penthouse doing his A-levels, even when he's 84. You'll be sending our troops, our boys to Ukraine to die. You'll be telling Zelensky, oh, God, terrible hay fever today. Sorry, I keep sniffing. You'll be telling Zelensky that we're all behind you when we're clearly not. And the madness continues. The whole immigration legal system needs to be sorted. Lisa's on one now, isn't she? Criminals only get one bite of the cherry. Immigration appeals seem to be able to appeal again and again and again. Oh, he said today he's going to tighten that up. He did, right? I've got 3 mates who are immigration lawyers, right? And they're really decent fellas. But they just take the mick out of this system because the law's not tight enough. And whose fault's that? The government of the day. Because Tony Blair, this is the thing you've got to get in your head. Tony Blair wanted them in. Keir Starmer wanted them in. Keir Starmer today saying he's going to get tough. It's bullshit. He isn't. You can imagine him. They're in North Islington, right? And they've just had their tofu burgers and they're chatting about the opera or they're chatting about going to Salonika in the summer, right? Or how their child's getting on with the extra maths lessons they're paying for because they can afford it because they've got money. But he just goes to the local comprehensive. All that North Islington bunch, right? Yeah? Can you imagine it if you suddenly said, well, actually, I think we should send them all back. Right? They'd all be choking, wouldn't they? They'd all be dying. Yeah? Just before they start snorting their cocaine. I always remember years ago when I was on BBC London and I can't remember, was it Paul Condon? Can't remember which one. It might have been Blair. He was an absolute joke. Blair, the chief of police, do you remember? But the one sensible thing he said was, all these people who snort cocaine at dinner parties, you're responsible for the drug deaths. There was outrage in the British press because he was talking about them and in political circles. So when I see a story about cocaine, I used to think that's a load of rubbish. I'm not alluding to anything that's happened recently. God, my hay fever's terrible. John, you're bloody brilliant. Keep on keeping on. Yeah, I am. You're right. Yeah, thanks. Oh, that's Dan Reddington. Oh, Dan's the man who used to listen to me when I was in Birmingham. And he had the best record shop in the world, bar none. It's called, I hope it's the right guy. I think it is. You're looking quite good, Dan. When was that picture taken? About 500 years ago? Did you keep that in the loft next to one of Oscar Wilde? Anyway, Dan had a record shop called Reddington's Rare Records. Brilliant. Any record you can imagine, he had it. And he knew all the Birmingham scene, you know, the Roy Woods and all that lot, and Robert Plant, and musical knowledge was brilliant. Dan, lovely to hear from you. I know you got rid of your shop, so if you got a fuse, Bob, you can sponsor me, couldn't you? Come on, Dan. Only a £5. Buy me a coffee or send me a reward on YouTube, the ones that I can't remember the name of. Why am I so useless? Lisa said to me the other day, she said, how's the donations going? I said, when I remember to do it, yeah, they go quite well. She said, what do you mean when you remember? Write it down. Oh, yeah, all right. And I don't. I'm useless. I am useless. No wonder I'm 64, sitting on my ass in my daughter's beautiful kitchen as it is, but I don't know. Are you free this week, Dad, to come down and help me because the dog? Yeah. What else would I be doing? Don't you have anything to do, Dad? No. No, just me podcast. Why do you think I'm doing this now? I'm sitting here bored. Anyway, don't get used to it because I'm not going to do it every day, but I've done it today. I'll come back at 6:30 because I've got something else to say later, and I might be in a bit of a lively mood by then. Thanks for watching today. Thanks for listening. If you're listening to the audio podcast, feel free to buy me a coffee, www.buymeacoffee.com/John Gaunt, or do it on YouTube. But most of all, press the like button. Press the like button. Tell people you like it. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, John Gaunt TV. It's completely and utterly free. So that might appeal to you, Dan. It's completely and utterly free. So do that, because the more people who like it, then the algorithm, I don't understand how it works, but algorithm, right, I think he's a Greek lad, he then promotes me more. Right? That's how it works. You've got to get that. So I'm just off now to speak to my other mate, AI, who'll do all my little snippets for me, right? A lot of artists, hang on, I better read this. Jess, you want me to read this out for him, do you? This is for Dan. Listening, Dan, you got your own fan club here. A lot of artists are releasing their music on vinyl and CDs, which is smart. If the grid goes down, no music would be a nightmare. Bring back tapes. Oh, I'm with you on that, Jess. I was only saying that to, when was that? I said to Rose. No, yeah, was it Rose? It's one of them, one of my kids. This whole cashless society is just not going to work, is it? Oh, that's it. It was last night. I was going to nip to the co-op in the village. She said, there's now in there, Dad. I said, what do you mean there's now in there? Oh, they've had an outrage, an outage. I said, what's that then? She said, haven't you heard about it on the news? I said, I don't watch mainstream news. I'm alternative. She said, co-op have been attacked, cyber hacked or something. And it's right, you go in there, there's nothing on the shelves. But then somebody else told me it's same in Marks and Sparks. And then you can't buy anything and you can't do anything because it's all on your phone or on the internet, isn't it? And if the banks go down, you're knackered. So there was something positive in going bankrupt. There was something positive. I don't go bankrupt, but being absolutely on the uppers. I can only work in cash, right? I try to look for something positive in my miserable, sad existence of a life. The Hack. What's The Hack, Jess? Is that a film? Going on 3 weeks. I live on an island with 2 co-ops. Well, good on you, Jess. You run free, darling. Mark the Vickers put his thumb up. Okay, Mark, thank you. Right, that's me done. I've got to go. If you've got kids, give them a kiss, give them a hug. Hey. Don't forget to tell them you love them. And I'll try and see you at 6:30 unless I run out of steam. See you later. Bye.